Activision is once again scamming players with the Black Ops 1 and 2 ports. And before you get all angry at me, let me show you the cold, hard proof and the facts behind this situation. So if you guys are unaware, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 are getting ported to PlayStation 4 and 5, and the prices that Activision are charging is absolutely ridiculous for how old these games are. If you want to buy both of the games with all the DLC, you're looking at $140. That is just a completely absurd price for the age these games are. Despite how great it is for PlayStation players, it still is just too expensive. Now you may be asking, how is that a scam? Well, a lot of people don't know this, but Activision actually ported Call of Duty Ghosts from PS3 to PS4 back when it dropped. And I want to give a shout out to my friend Canadian who actually discovered this and brought it back to light. So when Call of Duty Ghosts dropped, it released at a really weird time where the PlayStation 3 was at the very end of its life cycle, so they were trying to get it to PlayStation 4. So what they did was, if you had bought in a PS3 edition of Call of Duty Ghosts, there was a voucher inside the game's case, which you could enter the code into the PlayStation 3 store, and you were able to buy the ported, high quality, better version of Call of Duty Ghosts on PS4 for only $10. The only other thing you had to do was put your PS3 disc into your PS4 just so they could confirm that you had actually bought the game and you didn't get the code off of some website or from one of your friends or just from any other place other than officially purchasing the game. They also did something similar with Call of Duty Cold War. So if you don't know, if you had bought Cold War on the PS4, you could actually upgrade it to the PS5 version, which was just the far superior version in every way. Better graphics, more customization, everything was just an improvement. And you could do that for only $10. Both of these games were brand new when this was actually happening, and they only charged $10 for the game. But when they're porting a 15-year-old game, they're gonna charge you $70 for the whole experience. That is really scammy, and I think that's a huge problem with Activision. Everybody knows Activision and Microsoft are money-hungry, greedy corporations, but I really truly believe that they owe it to the fans to give us these games at a better price, especially for PlayStation fans. Xbox have been able to play the games for years, even if it was a worse experience, even if it lagged, even if you had hackers, you were still able to go in, play the games, and actually enjoy yourself. But for PlayStation fans, you have not been able to play these games at all since PS3 days. That is so long ago. If you guys do not know about PlayStation has zero backwards compatibility, so you cannot play the old PS3 games on the PS4 or 5. It just does not work. So PlayStation fans have genuinely been wanting to play this game for years and years, and I understand that's why people are so excited for it. It's just a shame that Activision is back to being their greedy selves again, and they're trying to squeeze the community out of every single dollar they can get. Hopefully these ports have some new features, especially if they're going to be charging at a price this high. It could potentially have FOV unlocked, so we can get a higher FOV, go up to 100, 120. We're basically stuck on 65 on console. It's very zoomed in. It looks horrible to play. Maybe we can get a FPS unlock so we can get higher than 60 FPS. That would be amazing. Imagine playing on 120 FPS on Black Ops 1 and 2. Would feel so smooth. Higher resolution. It's going to be rendered in native 4K, which is so much better because Black Ops 1 on PS3 is actually lower quality than 720p. That game is not even HD. A lot of people don't know that. It is below HD. It is considered an SD game. That's how old it is. So to see these games rendered in 4K, they're going to look so beautiful. Everything is just going to look higher quality, better detailed, even though these aren't full remasters. And the fact that they ported Call of Duty Ghost and Call of Duty Cold War when they first came out, and it was only for $10, I think that just shows that Activision has only gotten more and more greedy as the years have went on. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying that they don't care how much it costs, they would pay $100 for just one of the games with no DLC. And I think that that is such a problem, and I think that people are just feeding into Activision's greed more and more and more. People don't seem to understand that if the game really costed $100 and you were willing to pay that much, first of all, Activision would change that price if they knew enough people were willing to pay that much. They would charge as much as they possibly could for as little possible work. And if the game was that expensive, it would only hurt the games. Think about it. If they actually costed $100 a piece and then you had to buy DLC separately, almost nobody would buy the game. The queue times would be ridiculously long. You would never be able to find a lobby. It would basically be like playing the games on PS3 and Xbox 360 still. It's very concerning that people are so willing to just throw their money away for nostalgia, and I understand nostalgia is a strong drug. I'm probably going to be buying these games as well because I love the original versions of these games and I want to see how the ports feel and if they feel like the classic experiences. But that does not mean that I would go and give my life away to Activision just to play these games one more time on new consoles. A lot of people have been going crazy in my comments saying they don't care how much it costs, they're buying it anyway. And like I said, I understand that. I just think it's a really bad mentality to have when you know you're dealing with a corporation corporation that is this greedy. We do know that these ports are going to be an objective improvement on the originals. Even if they don't have all the extra features that we would like to see them implement, we know for sure that these games are going to run significantly better. On the PS3 and Xbox 360, these games could get up to 60 FPS, but they were extremely inconsistent. They would typically dip down below that to 30, 40 FPS, and it would just overall feel clunky and not smooth to play. But on these ports, we know we're going to get a stable 60 FPS. The FPS will not be dipping and will stay far more stable than the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions. We also know that the servers are going to be fully remade, so that alone will almost completely get rid of the hacker problem that the old games have nowadays. It's nearly impossible to play a game of Black Ops 2 on PS3 because you are going to be bombarded with hackers. Not only will they be hacking in the game with aimbot, wall hacks, spinbot, stuff like that, but they will also be able to potentially pull your personal information, get your IP address, rat your computer, rat your console, things like that. Now that is less likely obviously than just aimbot, but it is still 100% possible, and it has been done to many people. So it's good to know that that will be far less of a concern in these new lobbies. It'll also be great to see these games at a higher quality. Like I said earlier, these games on the old consoles are a lot lower quality than you probably remember them being. I mean, for Christ's sakes, Black Ops 1 isn't even in HD. So to see these games come back to life with 4K resolution, it's just going to be absolutely incredible. It's just going to give us such a better feel and look. It's going to be so much fun. And I want to talk a little bit more about the Call of Duty Ghost and Black Ops Cold War ports, because I think these are a bigger deal than people probably realize. Especially with Call of Duty Ghost, people don't really realize how much better the PS4 version of that game runs than the PS3 version. Call of Duty Ghost on the PS4 was such a huge graphical leak from the PS3 version, and it wasn't a remaster, it was just simply a port. This is the type of experience that we're going to be getting with the Black Ops 1 and 2 ports, because it is going to look so much better than the originals. It's going to be mind-blowing. I'm going to throw some footage on screen of the Call of Duty Ghost PS3 versus PS4 version. Just look at how much graphically the PS4 version looks. And this was just one console generation. We're technically leaping 2 console generations now with the PS3 to the PS5. It is going to be such an improvement graphically that I think people aren't even going to realize that it isn't a remaster. People that aren't informed on what ports are, what remasters are, what actually classifies as those things, they are going to just assume that this is a remaster because it looks so much better than the original did. And it will finally give players a way on PlayStation to re-experience their classic experiences from their childhood, or maybe even experience it for the first time. There are so many people that have never played the Black Ops 1 or 2 campaigns. They have no idea how good Call of Duty campaigns used to be. They just see the new stuff on Black Ops 7 and they just assume that campaigns have always been that bad. But when they go back and they actually have a chance to play these campaigns, they will realize what they have been missing from Call of Duty and why these new games just don't feel the same as the old ones. Everything about these old games are just iconic, and I really cannot wait to see them ported to PlayStation, even if I feel like the prices are too high and they really need to lower them. It is really scammy, but overall, I am still excited for these ports. If I was Activision, what I would do to fix this would be to bundle Black Ops 1 and 2 together for a $50 USD price tag, and you get all DLC included with that. So basically, that would mean that each game is $25 and you get all the DLC that comes with it. I think that would be a great compromise. Activision would make their money, players would be happy, they would get all the DLC, and they would be able to play with their friends, because if you don't know, on the old games, if you have some DLC and your friend doesn't have that DLC, then you can't play with your friend unless you uninstall the DLC. So it's a huge hassle. It would be a simpler solution if they just bundled them together, make it $50 USD, and called it a day, all DLC included. Like I said, everyone would be happier, it'd be a far better experience, and I just really hope that that is the route that they go, because if it's not the route they go, then I think we're in trouble, and I think that these ports are going to financially struggle. And finally, I just want to make a list of everything that I hope that these ports have that the originals did not have. First thing I want to talk about is a higher FOV limit. Now, on the original console versions of these games, the FOV was set at 65, and you could not lower it and you could not raise it. There was no option to be able to change your FOV settings. In modern gaming, that is just such a ridiculous idea that you can't change your FOV. Nearly every single game has an FOV slider these days, no matter what kind of game it is. No matter if it's a friend slot game, a first-person shooter game, it does not matter. These games all have FOV sliders. So to see these games come out without FOV sliders would just make them feel dated. I understand that they are really old, but it is an easy improvement that they can make, and it would not take that much effort. The next thing I want to see is a FPS unlock. So the old games could get 60 FPS, but they were very inconsistent. But I want to be able to see these games get to 120 FPS, 144 FPS. The higher the better. We need to not have a limit on what the FPS can be. If I can run it at 120 FPS, I should be able to run it at 120 FPS, and so on. Just like with FOVs, modern gaming has higher FPS. Players have come to expect FPS to be far higher than just 60. So it would really be a disappointment if these games came out and didn't have a higher FPS than the originals. One thing that absolutely needs to return from the older games, which I'm skeptical will, is the emblem creator. We need to be able to make custom emblems. I know people take it too far and put a bunch of crazy stuff in their emblems, but a majority of people don't do that, and it's genuinely just fun to have an emblem creator. We have not had one for so long. They need to make sure they do not remove it. I'm afraid that they will remove it because they know how controversial it is, but please, Activision, if you're going to keep anything, keep the emblem creator in these games. And I think the most important thing that these ports need, if they want to be successful, is they need to actually keep updating them and keeping them safe. They don't need to be adding new content and new DLC packs. That would be stupid in my opinion. They just need to make sure that the hackers cannot compromise this game, and they need to constantly be updating it and keeping the game safe to play so that people can continue to play them for years to come. But yeah, that's my opinion. Let me hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like, and if you want to see a deep, in-depth breakdown on Call of Duty Black Ops 1 Zombies and what made it a masterpiece, then you can watch this video on screen right here. Thank you guys for watching.